God had seen it. He had seen. I love how God is. I love how He sees things. He sees it all the way through. He actually sees the end before the beginning. He knows how it's all going to play out. But for us, you know, we get limited views of it. And sometimes that's hard for us. It's hard for us to keep the faith, because especially if God makes a promise to you, and it seems as though whatever He's promised you is not coming to pass, then, you know, you lose faith. You lose faith. And that's how we are too. We're kind of like children. We're kind of like children when it comes to God. If God doesn't give us what we want, when we want, we're going to throw tantrums. You know, we're going to act out because He's not giving us what we want. And how many of you know that God's not fazed by your tantrums? You know, you can throw how many tantrums you want. That doesn't faze Him. What fazes Him is a humble heart.
Yes.
What moves His hand is a humble heart.
Amen.
Is a heart that is submissive. And when they got home, it's the beginning of her redemption. Because Ruth was willing to do anything. And they got home, they got back to, Naomi's home. They got back to Bethlehem at grain harvest time. It was harvest time. Not a coincidence. Again, not a coincidence that she's coming back home empty, and it's a season of harvest. It's a season of reaping now. And she's coming back in a time when it's Passover. Passover again is a celebration of the redemption of the Israelites after being in bondage for 400 years. It's redemption season. So she is coming back in redemption season. But still, of course, she's just thinking to herself, you know, God has forgotten me. Still at this point she hasn't seen. But Ruth, I believe, she's the one who's having the faith right now. She's the one who's having the faith for both of them. And she's a willing girl. She's willing to work for them so that they're not going to go hungry. So she goes into the fields and she gleans in the fields, because while they're harvesting the grains, there's like leftover grains. She's going to get scraps, basically. Leftover, she's going to pick that up so that they could eat, so that they could survive. She went into the field of a man named Boaz. And Boaz was a relative of Naomi's deceased husband. And when Naomi knows that she's in the field of Boaz, she then tells Ruth, she then gets an idea. She gets a light bulb. Like the light gets back in her eyes again. And I thought to myself, oh, Boaz. When ladies start conspiring, you're in trouble. When we get a light bulb above our head, you want to watch out. So,
amen on that one.
so Naomi tells us, you know, this man is a close kin to my husband, and he is what's called a kinsman redeemer. He is someone that can take over our family. A kinsman redeemer was someone who would take over caring for a close real male relative, a deceased relative. He would take over caring for the family. He would take over any debt. He would just continue to give it, and he also had the responsibility of furthering the bloodline. So that means that he had to have children. And so Ruth, because Naomi told her to, she asked Boaz to be the kinsman redeemer. And Boaz said yes. And I'm thinking to myself that Boaz was really, really honorable, but also I'm thinking Ruth was really beautiful. That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm thinking no man wants extra responsibility that, you know, brings on him having to pay for debts. He has to redeem their land for them, and then he has to continue to care for them. He has to have a family with this woman. Yeah, I'm thinking she was pretty. Because she was pretty, and I'm thinking that, you know, he was honorable. He was honorable, and most importantly, he was a man of God. He was a man of God, and he was willing to be used by God. And that's how he became so instrumental in this story. So eventually, Ruth and Boaz marry, and that was the end of redemption for Naomi, because I believe at this point she believed that God was still God. She believed that he still loved her and he still cared for her. I believe that at this time that darkness was being removed and the light was beginning to shine again. So the end of redemption and the beginning of restoration. The beginning of restoration. Something that stuck out to me when I was reading about the kinsman redeemer, it came to me that God was Israel's kinsman redeemer. Every time they got in trouble, every time they went away from him, he always went to them and redeemed them. And the same way Christ today is our kinsman redeemer. When we get in trouble, when we go out of our way, we go out of our way to go out of his will, he still finds us where we are and redeems us and brings us back to where we need to be. He finds us where we are and brings us back to where we need to be. So Ruth and Boaz, they marry, and they have then they have a son. They have a son, and all the while, of course, they're still remaining with Naomi. And in chapter 4 now, to the end of it, where we have gone through from the beginning, it started with her destruction. It started with darkness, and then in the end, we see light again. Amen. In chapter 4, verse 14, it says, "Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day without a close relative." Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day. Stuck out to me when I was reading. Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day. Amen. Without. You can add in whatever you want to add in. He has not left you this day without. Amen. Without whatever you need. Amen. To survive. Amen. Without whatever you need to succeed. Because ultimately God doesn't want us just to survive. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to win. He's always been for us. But the enemy comes in and says, he's not for you. The enemy comes in and he makes us think that God is against us. But God is always for us. Amen. He's always wanting us to win and to be victorious. Victorious. Thank you, Jesus. That is all he ever wanted and all he ever wants. Deuteronomy 31:8 tells us, he will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. And in our lowest times, it's hard for us to believe that God is with us. In the pit, it's hard for you to believe that he's there. In the pig pen, it's hard for you to believe that he's there. All these are different places that men have been in the Bible. And in Moab, it's hard for you to believe that he was there. But his grace was there. Sometimes his favor is removed, but his grace can find you wherever you are and redeem you and restore you to the place where you were originally meant to be. Boaz and Ruth has their son, and it says that Naomi takes him to her bosom in the end. She takes the child to her bosom, and I believe at this time her life has become full circle. She was where she needed to be. She left where she needed to be. The journey back to where she needed to be was a long, hard one, but she was back where she needed to be. And here she had a daughter, a son-in-law, and a grandchild. Restored. Restored. And that grandchild wasn't just any grandchild. His name was Obed. And the Bible tells us Obed was the grandfather of David. And David is the forefather of the Messiah, the forefather of Jesus, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. If she had given up in her darkest hours, if she had given in and given up in her darkest hours, she would have forfeited her legacy. Her legacy of forever being tied to the bloodline of the Messiah. She would have forfeited the restoring power